Yeah, this is Mr. Curry coming on. Mr. Curry, I'm going to ask you, you've heard the conversation. You've heard about, how they institutionalize society, how they target the black communities. Then you heard Brother Vaughn come on, and he talked specifically about, the systems that they have in place and some of the laws that they've enacted. And here we are in Alabama right now. We have 63% of the people incarcerated in Alabama prison system that is black. We have an 80% functional literacy rate. And we continue to see these laws and rights taken away every day. And at the same time, we have this mass amount of young men inside the prison that Brother Vaughn basically saying has been emasculated. So if you would first speak about some of the laws that are in place, some of the things you see inside the Department of Corrections, and then we'll just start speaking specifically about the men who we have in here today.
Yeah, I couldn't hardly hear at the moment, Melvin. What part of the law in particular you want to
Okay, talking about the Anti-Terrorism Effective Death Penalty Act, Prison Litigation Reform Act, the Pell Grants, when they took the Pell Grants away, how they took away education opportunities for men who are incarcerated. Speak about that, how you see it inside the Department of Corrections today playing out.
As far as that Anti-Effective Death Penalty Act, that was something that was designed in 1996, April 24, Bill Clinton signed into law. As to correspond with the terrorist attack at the base on Oklahoma City bombing. At that time, what he did was basically label everybody terrorists at that time as far as taking out, on the terrorist to make they act on everybody that's incarcerated. As far as putting time limitations and things of this nature here, speeding up death penalty, being put to death quicker, and just having time bars on your litigation period, you know what I'm saying? From your 32 to your habeas corpus, from your lawsuit 2254, et cetera. It's just time limitations is placed on it. That's heard of a kid, yeah. They heard instead of sitting on death row 30 years now, they getting killed in 10 years. And as far as
the prison litigation reform act, we're talking about the prison also.
You have strikes as to how many times you can file, as to inform a power free before they try to tax you and put costs on you, try to stop you from filing. What else you mentioned?
Okay, and then we're going to talk about, when you say 2254 federal habeas corpus, that's the petition that a person filed when they've exhausted their remedies in state court, filed post-conviction petition. The state hasn't granted them any relief, and they're able to show that their constitutional rights are violated. Once they file a 2254 habeas corpus in federal court, this is where they're supposed to have the constitutional right thoroughly examined by a federal court. And if the right has been violated, he's supposed to get a new trial or get some other form of relief. But that's not always the case, and we see more and more even with mass incarceration and so many people incarcerated still unable to get relief in court. So just speak to that about how guys are in prison. Their rights have been violated to get them here, but there's no relief remedies available from the courts.
See, the whole thing was basically set up on just a part of the Constitution. It was just to free up on the part of the Constitution. But when the preamble was put together, when they said we are the people to form a more better government, they weren't talking about us. At that time, we weren't even 3/4 of a man. They weren't talking about the black man in general. You know what I'm saying? So they little claw they just throw in. They just something they say to protect your constitutional right, but it wasn't designed for. It was designed for it to fail out the gate. McConnell taught me from the day we got found guilty in trial to when we did our first direct appeal. Once you came out that Supreme Court, you did what you defaulted. When you defaulted, in essence, layman term, street term, you fucked up. It's gonna be extra harder to get out of prison. The burden of proof is on you. Everything from that standpoint is sealed in nature. It's harder than a motherfucker to overcome that. On the 32 level, you're not entitled to counsel. You know what I'm saying? The burden of proof is on you at your own risk. You only protected by counsel, trial, and on direct appeal. From then on, you're on your own, man. You go back to court, you had to carry your burden of proof. These are things they don't tell you about. You only have one time to file ineffective assistance counsel. After you have 1 year. Anything after 1 year, you void on anything dealing with ineffective assistance counsel. They don't tell you that. This is net upon. You know what I'm saying? This is just something you discover on your own. Don't no lawyers like to take Rule 32. Why they don't like to take Rule 32? Because Rule 32s are rarely granted right then. Rarely granted right then. I've been litigating for 16 years. You want to know how many Rule 32s I granted right then at the hearing right then? Probably 16 years. I done probably had gazillions of rules or the evidentiary hearings before getting granted right then, probably 2.
So in other words, they ain't letting nobody go. Once they get us in,
they ain't letting nobody go. Not the odds are not high. If the odds was high, please show me. I'm listening. I love learning. The odds are not high, Mr. Melvin Ray. The numbers are not adding up on that.
All right. Well, just stay on the line, Mr. Curry, Mr. Vaughn. We have a couple of more callers. Go ahead and connect those callers, Mother Ray. I think we have 2 callers waiting to come in. Anyone else who want to come in, please press 1. We want to hear from our callers also. We're talking about mass incarceration. We're talking about domestic genocide, the institutionalization of society. We're talking about victims of misfortune also out there in the community being poor and how that makes you a target of the government. And once you get inside the prison system, they have laws in place. Even when your rights have been violated, they have laws in place to keep you in prison. Mr. Curry was just telling us very rarely are you going to get any type of relief in the court. So we want to hear from the callers. The callers, go ahead and add them in, Mother Ray. Yes, go ahead, caller, please. Mother Ray.
Excuse me, brother. Am I tuned in?
Yeah, is there a caller on?
Am I tuned in, brother?
Yeah, you tuned in, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
I was listening to the last call. And I really appreciate his information and his, as we would say, realism for the things that he was quoting, especially the 16 years of fighting cases of that nature and the 2 that was actually heard. Now, I have no problem because I myself was incarcerated for 9 years and have suffered and been a victim, but I myself have done my best to not be a victim anymore. I think a victim finds excuses. I think a brother of right causes does not find, then he makes a way for his other brothers. I think time limitations and the talking about comes down to brothers that's doing time that's trying to find a way out. And it's not just says that. It's actually the establishment who makes the laws that says that. So let's put this in reality right here. Me, you, whoever on this call may be white, black, minority, or not a minority, we say we're being victimized. But we are not the ones who take us to the process. We are not the ones who put the initiative into our people to vote to change these laws. I think one of the most important things is if we brothers, we being convicted for crack cocaine, we're in neighborhoods where we're victimized and we got to do what we got to do, right? We all know that. I mean, let's not pull no punches here. But when we know what we got to do, we don't even get the damn people to go out and say, hey, let's vote to change these laws on these drug laws, on these bullshit laws that put us in prison forever. So it's 22 with us. Black, knowing what we've been through, knowing where we're gonna go, because we're gonna go to greatness. Ain't no doubt about that. I think the most important part about this right now, when brothers communicating and opening dialogues, is to devise a plan to make sure this don't happen again. I'm tired myself of brothers saying what happened to us, but not what we can do about it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I want to form dialogues of conscious brothers to say, what's the next step? I know I did 9, 10 years in prison. I know all of my partners did 12, 15 years in prison because they had to do what they have to eat. Whether we was ignorant, whether we was led into the situation, whether we bought because we didn't know no better. We did all that. Okay, we know that happened, right? Whether sisters selling their sex, whether sisters was out there doing the wrong things, becoming quote-unquote whores, or whatever, you know all that happened. But what's the next step? What I'm at right now is I'm not about the hope with Obama. I love the president, but I'm not about no hope. I'm about reality. What is the next step? And I want brothers not to tell me laws to get me out of shit. I want brothers to tell me acts to get into positive shit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's where I'm at right now.
Let me talk to that right quick, bro.
Okay, go ahead,
bro. I'm listening to
you. Okay. All right. What we have to understand, and we talk about, and Dr. Umar goes in about this on the documentary. What we have to understand, we need to understand politics. Okay.
Yes, sir.
You never seen Asians say we want an Asian president. You never seen Arabs say we want an Arab president. You never seen Jewish people saying we want a Jewish president. Why? Because they understand who this country was made for. It was made for white Protestant males that own property and agree with the status quo. So what we have to do is we have to look at, okay, who creates these public policies? The politicians sign the policies, but they're not the ones who create the policies. Policies are created by think tanks, okay? So when you get these think tanks, you have to say, okay, what think tanks are, who sits on the board of these think tanks? You have the Rockefeller family, you got the Ford Foundation, you got all of these think tanks that engineered a lot of these public policies that we're faced with. So it goes right back to what I was saying earlier, who you give your money to is who you give your power. And one thing that, and I'm going to tell you, this is something that I learned because I went through it myself after I got out of prison. Once I went into prison, I devised a plan. And what my plan was to start my own business. And how did I start my own business? I went out here and worked. Now, could I work and save up enough money to start my business? Of course not. So how did I get it? You know, I got lucky. I had a landlord that based upon the fact that I was that I had a criminal record, you know, he did something illegal toward. He did an illegal move, and when I tried to correct him on it, he basically told me, "You're a convicted felon. Who is going to believe you?" So what did I do? I took him to court. I sued him. I won. I used that money that I won from my lawsuit, and I started my business. You know, so I got lucky. So what I try to do is, outside of just talking about the problems, I try to provide solutions. And the very first solutions that we have to provide is we have to acknowledge who are the companies that are behind these public policies. We have to acknowledge where our money is going. And where our money is going, if the CEOs of these corporations are the ones that are creating these policies, then that's the first thing we need to do is watch where we spend our money. After we watch where we spend our money, something has to be created that help our young males that's coming home from prison to be able to establish their own businesses. Jobs is just another thing to say I'm going to keep you poor. Now, one thing, I did work a job, and even working my jobs, I was denied bonuses. I was denied advancement on my jobs because they knew that I had a record. So when you have a record, it gives the employer the opportunity to, to basically shine you off because they know who else is going to employ you. See, and one thing that we can do as a group is first we have to organize. Without organization, we have nothing. Now, outside of organizers, we have to become a little bit more conscious as to who we affiliate with. Now, you have a lot of re-entry programs that's or a lot of these 501c3s, and I kind of go into this a little bit on my website, that are here to, quote-unquote, help people re-enter, help people become prepared to work jobs, but that's all good talk. It's hustlerism in order to continue those checks to come in from the federal government. So if you bet 1,000 that you're going to succeed, on the back end, you can't bet 50,000 that you're going to fail because your felon shows that your felon, you might think you're going to win, but you're not going to win because in all actuality you're losing. So what we have to do is we have to focus on the businesses in our community. Like one thing I did this is just certain things that I did on my own. I tried to reinstill hope in the people, and I tried to reinstill a sense of self-reliance in the people. So I didn't go to school to learn how to become a video producer or learn how to edit and operate these softwares. So what did I do? I taught myself. I searched that knowledge. I researched everything on my own. Nobody's going to hold your hand and say, okay, Billy, come over here and sit down and read this book. You got to have that thirst within yourself, and you have to find people that have something in common with you. Large majority of these people that stand out against mass incarceration, they're doing it because you have to understand, you talking about a complete system that plays chess. They don't play checkers. So they know, okay, if we do all of this, this is going to be the outcome. They know every 40, 50 years a revolution going to come about. You're going to have some revolutionary people that don't give a damn about the government, and they're going to come out and they're going to talk shit. So what do? They prepare for that. So they got their own people. That's why when you look at a lot of them, they say, well, we want to know where the next movement coming from. They want to know because they want to infiltrate it and be able to control it. They want to be able to control that revolution. And and everyone in America is a victim. And when I say a victim, not saying a victim in I'm helpless, but you a victim of something. If it's not, a majority of the people in America are victims of propaganda. One of the first avenues of propaganda in America was when Paul Revere, when they told the story about he rode a horse talking about the British are coming. You got 13 colonies, and everybody in these 13 colonies are British. So when you say the British are coming, what are you talking about? And nobody talks about Paul Revere was a bootlegger. Nobody talks about George Washington was a swindler. George, in the whole American Revolution, I'm going to tell you how, and this is how deep you get with it. And when you get deep with it, then you understand where you need to go. And the prime example is the American Revolution. If we really study that revolution was won by the convicts from Great Britain and the African slaves that was brought here that fought for the revolution. But what we don't talk about is the people that sold our people into slavery, the people that enslaved their own people and brought them over here to the Americas. When Britain found out that America was getting ready to revolt, the first thing that Britain did was send out a memo saying all African slaves and indentured servants that fight for the British crown, you are automatically free. So the same people that sold you into slavery are now asking for you to help them squash this revolution. And George Washington, who was, quote unquote, one of the founding fathers, he was the biggest man swindling around. He was one of the biggest criminals at the time. He executed people on the battlefield, his own people. And all of this was because they wanted their own white nation. They wanted another white nation. They wanted independence, and they used whoever they could to get that nation about. And once that nation came about, then they say, you know what, we're going to build jails. Now we're going to lock y'all all up. And one big story that I want people to understand, and like I said, history is very important. When you look at Abraham Lincoln, everybody say James Earl Booth shot Abraham Lincoln, and that was the end of the story. But what they don't tell you, he had 8 other co-conspirators, okay? 4 of them died. 5 of them, I think either 4 or 5 of them died, and the rest of them was locked up in prison. So Andrew Johnson, who was Lincoln's vice president, came into office, and he gave all the Confederate soldiers a pardon, and he gave those that was found guilty of the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, he gave them a pardon. So what does that tell you? You have a group of individuals that can make and break laws at will. So and all of this is done by the wealthy elite. So how do you combat this? And how do you get out of this situation? How do you overcome these things knowing that this is what's going to happen? You have to pull together. You have to organize. After you organize, then you have to. You can't fight a war with no finance. You have to support what's real. Once you start supporting the people that you see in the community, the people that's on a grassroots level that's trying to really make change. And I'm going to tell you, voting, anytime you see an organization and the first thing they talk about is voting, don't even deal with them. That's the same thing they did with our people before. That's why I say we got to educate our brothers with their history. And that's what the documented victim of Misfortune does. We actually break down the history, and at the end we tell you what we need to do to overcome these obstacles. But the very first thing we need to do is organize. That's the very first thing. And the second thing, you can't have and one thing that Malcolm X said in his message to the grassroots movement. Revolution is about land. It's about independence. And the only way you're going to win that is through bloodshed. You understand me? So if we real enough to kill our own, we real enough to disrespect our own mothers and sisters, but yet we won't have that same realness when it comes to our real oppressor, then something is wrong with us. You understand where I'm coming from? I'm not going to sit out here. That's why I say I'm not begging a thief for nothing. You can't, when a criminal, quote unquote, when a criminal attacks you, you can't say, okay, well, I'm not gonna do this because that might hurt the criminal. Well, I'm gonna do it this way. When a criminal attacks you, you're gonna do anything you can to get that criminal off your back. And right now, our criminal is the American government, and we're gonna have to do whatever it takes to get them off our back. And what that is we got to watch where we spend our money. If you got 20-some million Americans who have a felony conviction on their record, if each one of them has 3 family members, that's 60-some million people. That's a large voting block. Yeah. That's a large economic block. Okay? Yeah. And once we focus on the economics, because that's what it's going to take. I see people every day that can't be denied jobs, but at the same time they'll go to Bike Week, or they'll go to the CIAA tournament, or they'll go to Lil Wayne concert, Jay-Z concert. We contributing our money to the same people that's oppressing us. The same thing that's holding us back, when we should take that money, every dime you have, everything that touches your life should be towards your liberation. And what your liberation is, it's your freedom, it's your independence, it's your sovereignty. It's something that your Creator gave you that can't nobody take from you. And we cannot allow these entities to continue to deprive us of our, to being able to restore honor to our family. And it got to the point now where in the criminal records, people don't understand. If you got a felony conviction on your record, that's part of a criminal record. But now, say if you get arrested for shoplifting and you go to court and they dismiss the charge, you still have a criminal record. Mm-hmm. So you can still be denied jobs because of that record. You can still be denied housing. And now they have it where you can only move to poor communities. And when you move to poor communities, what do? They exploit us. So how do we get out of that? We started by this right here. We start spending money in the communities that you see that are active in your community. If Walmart ain't active in your community, if Walmart is not contributing to your community, don't give Walmart your money. I'm a head coach. I volunteer every year for the last 3 years. I've been a volunteer football coach. And what I do, I mentor the young inner city youth, 5, 6, 7 years old, through the game of football. Okay? Now, I see at that age, they already preparing these kids to go to prison. So how do we defeat that? We defeat that. One thing I did last season that worked really well, I started a study hall at the organization. Outside of the study hall, every week I gave my team, I gave my players 2 words, and they had to know the definitions verbatim on command. They 5, 6, and 7. I'm giving them definitions that 9, 8, 10-year-olds don't even know. You know what I'm saying? And they knowing it, and they learning it. So the kids want to learn, but where does the problem come in at? The problem comes in with the parents. The problem comes in with the parents because the parents are not aware of what they're feeding their children. Food plays a lot with this, just like the Free Alabama movement. The videos about the meat pies and stuff, that food plays an important role on how you think or how you work, because if you got processed food, and it's been done through scientific research, with basically processed food, high fructose corn syrup, anything with high fructose corn syrup, that chemical creates a mental illness in kids. Not only a mental illness, but then you're talking heart disease, you're talking diabetes. So when you look at, if you say, okay, if I drink a soda a day, eventually I'm going to get type 2 diabetes. Okay, well, who they advertising sodas to? They advertising sodas to everybody. They might have Jennifer Lopez for the Spanish people. They might have Lil Wayne for us. Then they might have Britney Spears for somebody else. And that product is being fed, spoon-fed to the masses, and we're being poisoned. So what do? We got to organize. We got to say, you know what? We need a new constitution. We need a new Constitution because the Founding Fathers were slave owners. The Founding Fathers were criminals themselves. You can't say crime in America start with us and then make them. Hold on, go back to the point where you was making when you was talking about how do we get out of the situation. Earlier when I spoke, I talked about how Britain was coming out of their dark ages. They was poor. They was coming. They was trying to find an economic come up, a lick, so to say. Okay, so what was they lick? They lick was America. So how did they lick it? They licked it through murder. They licked it through bloodshed. You understand me? So if we want independence, that's something. We want a revolution. We want something that's going to. And I'm not condoning or promoting violence. I'm just saying you have to be willing to go to that extreme. I'm a fisherman. If you catch a bass, if you hook a bass on the line, and it might be an 8-pound bass, you pull him out of the water, put him in the bucket. What he gonna do? He gonna jump the whole time in the bucket. You can take him all the way home and put him in the sink. He gonna keep jumping. Why? Because he gonna fight until he's dead. And that's what we get. That's the mentality that we must have. We cannot have this I have a dream mentality. We can't have this mentality to where, like I'm going to suffer peacefully. I'm not suffering at all. If anything, either we are men in this house or ain't no house. And that's the mentality that we have to have.
True that. That was very well said. We do have another caller on 7749. We want to let that caller come in, and then we're going to get back to Brother Vaughn and the caller coming in, because I think that right there he spoke it best. Either we're going to be men in this house or there ain't going to be no house. And the comment I posted on the Facebook today was, we'll tear up our community, and we'll beat up this person, and we'll tear this store down, but we'll come in prison and keep the prison up for free. We'll do the maintenance work for free. We'll do the laundry work for free. We'll cook the food for free. We won't tear the prison down, but we'll tear our community down in a heartbeat, and we'll tear our family down in a heartbeat. But I think that we have to start looking at, do we want to keep these prisons looking beautiful and shined up, or do we need to tear these prisons down the way that these prisons are tearing us down? Because these prisons are tearing us down physically, mentally, psychologically, spiritually, and emotionally. And we are keeping the prisons up through free labor. So we got to look at that. We got to answer that question. Caller 7749, last 4 digits. If anyone else is out there, you want to participate, we want you to push 1, contribute your comments and questions and dialogue, because these are very important issues that we're talking about, not just in Alabama, but throughout the United States. Free Alabama Movement, of course, we're trying to address those issues. We're organizing with Free Alabama Movement in the South. We have the legislation drafted. We have the Freedom Bill. Everyone knows we have this bill. This is what we're asking people to get behind, because we're calling for education. We're calling for rehabilitation. We're calling for re-entry preparedness. And we're going to speak specific about the Freedom Bill after these next callers come in. So go ahead, caller.
Hello, Melvin. This is Fred Hayes calling from Tampa, Florida.
Yes, sir, Mr. Hayes. Thank you for calling tonight. Go ahead and...
First of all, I just want to thank that brother for his comments, and I really need his website so I can go online and pull up his website and maybe call him later on. The second thing is, this is more of a commercial break, and Melvin, nobody from the Free Alabama Movement asked me to say this, but everyone that's listening, I would pray that you all would set something aside and give a donation towards the Free Alabama Movement. I've already prepared myself to do a donation tomorrow. If we can give to the church, we definitely can give to this organization that's doing something that I feel in my heart is positive. And I'm speaking of this from the spirit of my heart, because it's just something that needs to be said. And I just want to thank everybody that has spoken so far. It has been extremely educational, and I am so full, and I just thank you.
Well, we thank you again for calling in. We do need donations. Ain't no, the brother already done told you, economics, that's what's going to get us through this. It costs money to rent these facilities, to host these rallies. It costs money to put on a radio show. It costs money to print books and get T-shirts made. We're spending a tremendous amount of resources, but it's a worthy cause. It's a just cause, and it's a righteous cause. So we don't have to hesitate about spending, but we need for everyone to make a contribution. We come from impoverished backgrounds. My family's not poor, and the people that we have on here, no one comes from a rich family or whatever you want to call it. We come from people that know that you have to work to get what you want, but we have to get guys to understand that there's a tremendous amount of work to be done. You know, education is important. We have to get guys in these classrooms.